New Year again. During New Year's time, did you go travel? When you're on a trip, you can still practice. Before Luang Po became a monkhood, every holiday, Luang Po went and practiced at Wat and was so happy. The world has so many things you have to fight for. But if you go and stay and practice with the master, there's so much happiness. So most of the time, Luang Po went to see the master, Luang Po Put. Luang Po usually did not talk to the master, but just sit there, and then the battery is recharged, and then Luang Po came back and work like everyone else every day. But Luang Po never actually rest by going to karaoke, singing song. That's not a real rest. So practice, and then you have a real resting away. You can do it at home. Set up a little space at home and set up some time to practice. Stay with yourself, giving time with yourself to yourself. You stay in the world. There's so much things to take care of. You need a place to rest for yourself, and that's where happiness comes from. And then there will be time that you have to go and fight in the world, and then you have power to be in the world every day. Thai people have so many mental problems, even monks problem, even medical students have this problem. There are so much stress and there are no way out. So if you practice, if you take a break, then living without being in a hurry all the time. But sometimes you have to be in a hurry. Sometimes you have to slow down. So you have some mental power to be in the world. Actually, Dhamma practice bring happiness. Dhamma practice is about mental training. At the, at the beginning, you don't see the result, the fruit of your practice, but eventually you see the fruitation from practice, and you see the cruel world. You can live in cruel world because you have Dhamma to give you energy. And it's not about sitting and meditating. Some people think of Dhamma practice just like sitting and meditation or walking and meditation. Dhamma practice begins with having a moral code, and then it's about learning to develop your mind. The first thing you need to learn is moral codes. Moral codes is a lesson. There are three lessons. The first lesson is moral code lesson. Luang Po is explaining the Sanskrit word for studying. The only one who no longer have to study or learn would be the highest level of enlightened one. Other than that, everyone still need to learn, need to study, need to practice, so that one day you might become free of suffering. The first lesson to learn is to maintain your moral codes. And for ordinary people living in the world, you only need 5 of them. 5 moral codes would be enough. You don't need 8 moral codes, that's too much. Some people, they want to maintain 8 moral codes, and that's not appropriate for ordinary people. You can only do that if you are alone. But if you are a couple in a relationship, you may not be able to do that because your couple, your significant other may not agree to have 10 moral codes. There are some ladies who would like to maintain 8 moral codes, and they don't let their husband to touch them, and then suddenly their husband turn to other ladies, and then they become saddened, and then they blame the moral codes. Actually, they don't really have the right level of moral codes for themselves. Somewhat they ask for people to give money by telling them, if you give this much money to what, then you become rich later in your life. And then some people who believe so strongly would sell their house and give all that money to what. And this is not the right way to do giving, merit by giving. So when you make merit by giving, you need to do it at the right amount. When you give, you have to give, and then your mind have to be in a good mental state before you do the giving. While you are giving, you have to have all this good mental state all the time. You don't look for someone who would recognize you while you are doing giving the merit. Now, some people, before they give and during the giving, they were happy, but then after the giving, they become saddened because no more house, no more money. So to make merit by giving, before, during, and after, the mental state have to be in a good mental state. Otherwise, it's not a complete merit. If you cannot do this kind of merit, your your merit will not take you to a better place. Sometimes you give, you make this kind of merit, and then in your next life, because the merit was not complete, your next life is not a complete life. So you have to be very careful when you make merit. So make merit and maintain your moral codes. To maintain a moral code living in the world is difficult. For ordinary people, to maintain the 5 moral codes would be difficult. Even in the book of Buddhism, state that it is very difficult to make your moral code so complete and pure, because ordinary people, we live among the people who may not have moral codes, and then living with them would be difficult to maintain your own moral codes. They look at you as a strange person because you are different from them. So you need wisdom, you need to be patient, you need some trick, you need to have good wisdom to be able to be an ordinary person living in the world and maintain your moral code. When Luang Po was a government officer, Luang Po went to a meal, a dinner, and then the Luang Po's boss was trying to have Luang Po joining the drinking party. Luang Po had to say, I cannot drink. I am allergic to drinks. But actually, the allergy is allergy to his own faith to his own promise to maintain moral codes, it is quite difficult. Or Luang Por was sitting and working together with the boss, and the boss said, "I want to focus on my work. If anybody call me, just tell them I'm not here." And Luang Por wanted to keep his moral codes, but the phone rang, and then the person at the other end say, "I want to talk to your boss." And Luang Por have to whisper to himself, uh, the boss said, and then Luang Por would answer, "He's not here." This is it is not easy to try to maintain moral codes. So you have to be patient. You have to bear with all the things in the world that try to make you lose your moral code. Some people would try to taunt you or try to make fun of you. You just have to bear with it, or you have to just lose a little bit of moral code. So make up your mind, maintain your moral code. If you can keep your moral code, then Dhamma practice has already begun. The next lesson is to train your mind. Moral codes can keep you away from the defilement that is not so delicate. Moral code is like your final frontier to protect you from doing anything bad. So moral codes are your tool to fight with the defilements. If you don't have the meditation power, you have to use moral codes. Bear with it. Press. Be patient. You want to violate for moral codes. It's kind of difficult. Luang Por said, if you get addicted to cigarette, it's more difficult than drinking alcohol. When Luang Por was a university student many years ago, all the male students they drink and they would smoke, and Luang Por knew that it's not good. And then when Luang Por want to try to quit, and other people they still smoke, they still offer Luang Por some cigarette, and Luang Por still smoke a little bit. And then one day, Luang Por lit a cigarette, and someone came and talked to Luang Por. So Luang Por put down the cigarette, and then after the long talk, Luang Por forgot about the cigarette, and then Luang Por looked at the burned cigarette. That's like all the dirt that was the remain of the burned cigarette, and Luang Por feel like this is what I'm taking into my body. And then Luang Por has the wisdom that I'm not gonna do that anymore. No more smoking for you, because Luang Por had the wisdom to see that this is all bad. This smell bad. Why do I take this into my body? So Luang Por can quit smoking because of this wisdom. Because Luang Por see the bad things about smoking. So to fight with defilement, you need all the tools. You need moral codes. You need meditation power. You need wisdom. Moral codes are all about preparing your action, your speech. And then the next step is to prepare your mind, and that is to train by doing meditation. Meditation is not about fabricating your mind. If you do meditation for resting your mind, then you can adjust your mind. You can fabricate your mind. The mind is restless. You want to make the mind calm. The mind has defilement. You want to make the mind become free of defilement. So when you say Dhamma practice is about knowing what truly happened without any fabrication or interference, that's only half of the mental training, because sometimes you need to practice to rest your mind. Like a young monk, when they become a monkhood, when they enter monkhood, they have lust, they have greed. So to do wisdom practice to fight with this kind of defilement, it's not gonna work. The young monk need to do other practice to rest their mind, to use some kind of mental fabrication or adjustment to try to fight with defilement. So at the beginning, the the mental power to do wisdom practice, you don't have enough. So every time greed or lust arise to the mind, you need some technique to fight with those kind of defilement. Your mind is attached to something beautiful. You have to use the opposite things to fight with those kind of defilement. You like a beautiful girl, and then you feel like your mind like this kind of beautiful lady. You have to think what is so beautiful about a lady. They only look beautiful because of their hair, their skin, their face. If you look at Miss Universe, but the if a Miss Universe have a disease and then she loses all her hair, she's not gonna be no longer beautiful. Or you can look at a corpse of a beautiful person, a beautiful lady. When their body, their corpse is burned, you see the beauty is only on the skin. So when someone has lust, you have to look at a person from a different perspective. A lady who is beautiful, is she beautiful all day long? When she just about waking up, is she still looking beautiful? Some lady even do some makeup before they went to bed, but then at the middle of the night she looked like a ghost because the face is so white. So inside is not really beauty. Everything that come out of the body is like dirt from head to toe. They are all dirt. Dirt from your ear, dirt from your mouth, dirt from your skin, dirt from your hand, dirt everywhere in your body that the body produce. This is to use thought, and this is not wisdom practice. This is thinking. This is looking at something from a different perspective. Or when you have anger, you cannot really use wisdom practice to fight with a strong feeling of anger. So if you still have anger in your mind, what do? You have to look at it this way. If I'm angry at a person, my mind is not happy. And then you see that anger is not a good thing. Or you look at a person like, why is this person so selfish? You have to look at them from their perspective. You should not look at other people from your own perspective. But if you look at everyone else from that perspective, everyone is unhappy. So they are fighting, they are struggling, they are so pitiful. And then you have this feeling of kindness that you can give, and then anger could fall. This is the type of practice to fight with defilement. But wisdom practice is not about fighting like this. Wisdom practice is to not interfere. Moral course is to prepare your action and your speech to be ready. Meditation is to prepare your mind so that you can do wisdom practice. If the mind become restless, you cannot do wisdom practice. If the mind keep thinking about this, thinking about that, and we try to stop the mind to think, you cannot really control your mind like that. So instead of letting the mind think about this, think about that, you train the mind so that the mind think about Buddha, think about Dhamma, think about good monk, think about some person who is good, like the late King Rama the Nine, or his daughter, the princess, or you train your mind to think about your master, like the master Luangpu Khao, the master Luangpu Tet. This master, they have so much kindness in them. So you just saw that picture, saw that image, and you can have the mind that is calm. It's peaceful. So if the mind think about this, think about that, you train your mind so that your mind think about your own merit that you give. You give blood. You donate blood like 36 times, and they're giving you a little pin for your effort, for your giving. Every time to see this pin, you feel good. Or you can think of death when you have greed, you want this, you want that, you are hungry, you have so much money and you still want more. So you think about a death, you go to a funeral, you see that this person would die, that person die, the one you hate also die, and one day you will die. And you stop trying to seek more, and the mind would start letting go of hunger, of this wanting and greed, and that's not enough. That kind of feeling. So to to fight with defilement like this, it's like the practice to rest your mind. You think too much, you think putto, putto. Instead of letting the mind become restless, you let the mind think putto, putto, and the mind become calm. When the mind become calm, then you can practice your mind further. The mind is calm is not enough. Making the mind calm. We have this kind of practice before Buddha, but what Buddha taught us is to train the mind so that the mind become the one who knows, the one who knows the mental phenomenon. In Dhamma practice, Luang Po see that the most difficult point is to train the mind so that the mind become the one who knows. Luang Po insists that this is the most difficult lesson. Luang Po look at tens of thousands of Luang Po students and see that the most difficult point of Dhamma practice is to train the mind so that the mind become the one who awake, the one who can know. Why we cannot do that? Because the mind is so familiar with getting lost in thought. You sleep at night, you dream, you are awake during daytime. You think about this, think about that. It's like a dream as well. You are not familiar with being awake. You are familiar with sleep. The mind have this thought, have that thought, even the thought of making merit. When the mind gets lost in thoughts, you are not in the real world. To train the mind so that the mind is in the real world. Only a few people can do that. In the past, 20 years ago, Luang Po came and gave the first lesson at, at a place near this location. Luangpo went to Luangpo made a stop to have breakfast. There was a person who just walked by, and Luangpo pointed to that person and said to the master Pajana, you see, the world only have people who get lost in thought. Everyone get lost in thought. They get lost in that thought. When they look at something, when they see something, they get lost in what they see. They smell something, they hear something, they have some kind of a taste. They might get lost in those, whatever they come in contact with. When they just sit there doing nothing, they get lost in the world of thought. So when you get lost in thought, you forget about your body, you forget about your mind. So when you forget about the body and the mind, you cannot do wisdom practice. Wisdom practice is to learn the truth about the body and the mind. If you start by forgetting about the body and the mind, there's no way you can do wisdom practice. Some places they arrange a wisdom practice kind of retreat, and then they let everyone who practice there to observe their body, but the mind moves to observe the body part. All of those practice are just to rest the mind. It's not wisdom practice. The mind is not awake. To train so that the mind become awake, it is quite difficult because the mind is very getting used to the mind that have dream, the mind that have thought. The original mind, Buddha said, the original mind is bright. The bright kind of mind is the mind that can know, the mind that knows. The original mind is a bright mind that is bright, that is joyful. But this mind is contaminated by defilement, and the major defilement is the mind that get lost in thought, and the mind no longer become bright. The mind that get lost in greed, get lost in anger. So the original mind would be gone. Even cat or dog's mind, they have this kind of mind. The original mind is calm, is bright, but it is contaminated by defilement. It's like the sun. The sun is bright all day long, but when there's a cloud, the sun is no longer bright. You see, there's no longer the brightness of the sun. In fact, the sun is still bright, but we cannot see it because the cloud, the defilement, come and contaminate or block the sunlight. So we no longer can see the sun, or the sun is on the other side of the earth. We feel like there's no longer sunlight, but in fact, everyone's mind, even the animal's mind, or the God mind, angel's mind, or even being in health, those being the mind, every being mind, the original mind is bright, is calm, but those mind have no wisdom. Yet the great master in the past called this kind of mind the mind that can know, the mind that knows. And we train our mind so that our mind go back to the original state, so that the mind is bright and the mind can know the mental phenomenon, so that we have to train so that we know when something contaminate with our mind, whatever block our mind, we have to learn to know it. So the way to practice is that we have to know when there's something that come in contact with our mind. Don't try to look for the bright mind, the original mind. If you start by looking for it, you're not gonna find it, because the mind that seek is the mind that is already contaminated. You have to try and see and get rid of the contamination little by little. The method is to have the base for your practice. Whatever base, you can choose one. All the bases for your practice are all the same. Chanting Putto is not the best. Chanting this, chanting that verse, none of them is better than the other. It's up to what is good for you, what is suitable for your mind. หลวงพ่อ breathing out put, breathing in โท หลวงพ่อ never say this is the best practice for everyone. You have to find the practice for your mind that can make your mind be awakened as easily as possible. If you use some kind of practice and then the mind get lost in thought for a long time, it's not good for you. Or if you use some kind of practice and the mind becomes so stressful, it's not good for your practice. Everyone has their own way. หลวงพ่อ is หลวงพ่อ practice become good when หลวงพ่อ breathe out, put breathe into. This is the best practice for หลวงพ่อ's mind. หลวงพ่อ mind can stay with this practice for a long time. This is the practice to rest his mind. And then หลวงพ่อ adjusted how he practiced. Instead of letting the mind become one with the breath or the bright light that come with the breath, หลวงพ่อ recognize that the mind become one with the breath. When หลวงพ่อ knows that the mind that get lost to the breath is gone, and then the mind, the original mind that knows, would arise because the mind no longer get lost in thought to the breath. Whenever the mind get lost, the original mind is gone. When you don't get lost in thought, the original mind would arise. But when you practice, you cannot control your mind so that the mind doesn't get lost at all. The mind cannot be controlled. So have a base for your practice. The mind get lost in thought, just know it. There are two ways that the mind get lost. One is that the mind get lost, the mind get away from the base of that practice, like forgetting about breathing. Another one is the mind get lost and become one with the practice itself. This is a difficult one to learn. When the mind get lost to the practice or the base itself, the mind become a little stiff. When the mind get away from the practice, the mind just get lost. These are the two ends of the practice that the mind can get lost to. Everyone who practice or the practitioner, they train their mind, and that these two ends of the wrong practice. How do you train your mind so that the mind does not get lost? You cannot do that. The way is to know when the mind get lost. You have chanting Putto, and then the mind get lost. The mind forget about chanting. The mind forget about breathing. Just know it. Know the mind. If you want the mind to be the original mind, you need to know when the mind is not the original mind. If you only know the best for your practice, that's to rest your mind. But if you know the mind that is not the original mind, the mind can become a stable observer. This is a know-how that Luang Po learned from practice himself. When Luang Po know this, practicing became easy for Luang Po. Whenever the mind does not know, the mind get lost. It's like when you turn on the light, it's bright. When you turn off the light, it's dark. It's the same thing. So have the base for your practice. The mind get lost from the base. Just know it. The mind get lost in thought. It's easy to see. You chant Putto, Putto, and then you have other thought, and then you know it. At the beginning, your mind get lost for a long time. And then when you practice more and more, your mind get lost just for a short time, and then you can know. So when the mind get lost, and then the mind recognize, the mind become awake. But if the mind get lost to the practice itself is quite difficult. There was a person at our wat. He sit and meditate and practice like this for 40 years. He control his mind for 40 years. Luang Por try to adjust his practice for 2 months already, and Luang Por can adjust only a little because in his mind he want to practice to become free of defilement. Some people they are so getting used to controlling the mind. So Luang Por see that Luang Por taught that see this process, defilement make the mind act, and when the mind take action, that's the consequence of the action of the mind. Your mind becomes stiff. It's the consequence of the mind's action. You cannot really make the consequence go away. You cannot make the mind that is stiff going away. You cannot fix it like that. You have to see it this way. The mind that is heavy, the mind that is stiff, sometimes it's very heavy, sometimes that is less heavy. Just see that the mind is heavy, the mind is less heavy, and the mind will start seeing that. You see, oh, this is the consequence of the mind action. And then sometimes the mind is so heavy because we control too much. Sometimes the mind becomes less heavy because we control little. So the mind will see that the weight on the mind is because of the action of the mind. So when the mind start controlling, you will see it. And what is behind the action? What is behind the control? That is because of greed. Greed to practice well. Greed to practice to be a good practitioner. That's the defilement behind all the mind's action. So if you cannot see the greed behind the action, has anybody in this room see the stiffness of the mind when you practice? You cannot fix that. You should recognize when it's heavier or when it's more stiff, or you recognize when it's not as stiff, not as heavy, and then you see that every time you control the mind become like that. And what is the cause of controlling the mind? Because of greed, of wanting to practice well. We control because we want to be a good practitioner. Sometimes we don't have this greed and we don't control. This defilement is the one you have to get rid of. Action is not something you can get rid of easily, and consequent you cannot get rid of at all. So the one you have to get rid of is the cause of the action. So first you see stiff, less stiff, more control. Less stiff because of less control. And control come from defilement, come from greed. If you can see the defilement behind the action of controlling the mind, that's how you fix this. That's how you train your mind. The mind get lost, and you know that's easy to change, easy to recognize. But the mind that having too much control is more difficult to change or to fix. Luang Por did not invent this way. Buddha himself taught this. Buddha saw this from the process of how suffering arises. Buddha sat and trained his mind, and Buddha see what happens so that the mind has suffering. Suffering come because the mind take possession of our five sense. It's like the mind has a hand that grab all of this channel. What make the mind possess? Because the mind is in the mental state that it take action. Every time the mind take action because the mind has craving, defilement is the one who drives everything. So craving is the one that we have to let go. We have to get rid of. If you want to get rid of the root cause of defilement, Buddha see all the way back to the ignorance. Ignorance is the major, the deepest root cause of defilement. If you cannot get rid of ignorance, you cannot really let go of defilement. You only can see if the mind has greed, the mind come in contact, the mind take possession, and then suffering arise. So when you practice, you want the original mind, the mind that is the know, the one who knows. So know when the mind have too much control. If you cannot see the mind that control, just see the consequence of the mind's action, and then see the mind action, and then see the defilement behind the action of the mind controlling. When before Luang Po became a monk, almost 40 years ago, 39 years ago, Luang Po, well, 42 years ago. 42 years ago, Luang Po went to a place, a wat, a temple. Luang Po saw this tree that has so much shade, and Luang Po went during the middle of the summer. The weather it was so hot, and Luang Po see that this tree has shade. I'm going to practice right here. And Luang Po had this thought. One master, the master Luang Po Lun, Luang Po Nun has so much mental power. Every time Luang Po Lun met Luang Po, they have to fight using the mind power. Luang Po Lun shout to Luang Po, "You want to practice? That's already wrong." And that sentence is in Luang Po's mind. You want to practice? The mind take action. The mind take action because of greed, because of wanting to practice. This is defilement. Defilement leads to action. When your mind take action because of defilement, if you practice with greed and you don't know that, if the mind is contain greed, mindfulness will never arise. So the most difficult point is to train the mind so that the mind can know, the mind can recognize any contamination. Most contamination would be the defilement. The mind get lost in thought. Have a base for your practice. The mind get lost, just know it. And this defilement can no longer fool the mind. If you don't get lost in thought, the mind is not gonna become angry or have greed. Greed, anger always have the mind that getting lost in thought behind it. So the mind get lost, just know it. The mind get lost, just know it. You don't train to get rid of defilement directly. We don't try to get rid of greed directly. Greed will fall automatically because we practice like this. It's not easy to just let go of greed or defilement because all this defilement is the mental fabrication. Mental fabrication is part of suffering itself. You cannot really let go. You can only know it. So have a base for your practice. When the mind get lost in thought, just know it. The mind control too much, just know it. When you become good at it, the mind would become the one who knows, the knower mind. The mind become awake, the mind become joy, and the mind can know. This is the original mind. Luang Ta Mahabua, the master, he once said, the mind who knows is actually the mind that still has ignorance. The mind is bright, the mind is calm, but this mind still has no wisdom. Luangpu Dun, the master, once said, see the one who knows, the mind who knows. You have to destroy it. This is the mind that still has ignorance. If you can do that, then the mind become truly enlightened. But this kind of lesson, the master would not teach to many other people. Most master would just teach Putto, Putto, so that the mind become calm. But to let go of the mind that knows is the final lesson. If Luang Po does not teach this, this lesson will disappear. It's like a grandmaster who keep the final lesson away from his student. When the grandmaster died, the lesson, the last lesson would die with him. Dhamma is exactly the same. Some master, if you don't practice to where you need to learn this lesson, the master would not tell. But Luang Po is different. Luang Po teach everything. Even if you cannot do it now, you cannot practice like this now, you have to listen and memorize it. This is not the practice for you yet. Only when you have the mind that become the one who knows. The mind get lost, you know. The mind get lost, the mind know. The mind become a stable observer. The mind that is a knower. When this mind arises, this mind become the one who knows. This mind can see all the mental states. The mind will see that the mind is one, and whatever the mind knows is the other. All of everything that the mind come in contact with, everything that the mind see, like happiness arise and fall, come and go, suffering arise and go, good, bad state of mind arise and go, come and gone. The mind see that everything come and go, and the mind become the one who see, the one who knows. If you practice until you reach this level, you can achieve the third level of enlightenment. Your mind can become the non-returner. The mind that knows it's not you, but the non-returner still attached to it. Ordinary people would have a wrong view that the mind is us, but the stream enterer already know that the mind is not us. The stream enterer, although know that truth, but still attached to this mind. The stream enterer see that the mind is not us, but we still get attached to this mind because the stream enterer don't know the truth completely. When one see this phenomenon enough, they'll see the truth, and then their mind become the stream enterer, and they keep practicing until wisdom becomes stronger and stronger, and they see more truth that the world is just suffering. The world that we enjoy, that you enjoy, the one who practice until their mind reach the non-returner state, they will see that everything, every matter, the sound, the taste, whatever you see or hear, all of this that the mind come in contact with make the mind suffer. The ears, the eyes, the mouth, the tongue, everything are just suffering. They see the body as suffering itself, and they see that all of this, the body, the form, the matter is useless, and the non-returner no longer become attached. Their mind no longer become attached to the body, and they can let go of greed and lust. And the non-returner see no use in any kind of sound, so they can let go of defilement that come from sound. But the non-returner actually does not like or dislike all of this. They just become neutral to all the noise, the sound, the taste. But that state of mind is wanting to be alone, not wanting to mingle with anyone. The mind is so bright. The mind is not one with the world. The mind is free of sensual desire. And the last step of their practice is to see what is the last thing that the mind who knows still get attached to. What is the kind of defilement that the non-returner still have? The non-returner still compare his or her mind with other, like with the master. The master can do this. The master have this kind of mind. I still don't have it. The non-returner also have some kind of a restlessness. The ordinary people, their mind become a restlessness and get lost in sensual desire. But the non-returner, their mind get lost to Dhamma lesson. They always think, how do I practice so that I become free of suffering? And the only thing that they still attached to is not the world outside. They attach to the world inside their mind, the form and non-form, Brahma states of mind. These are the defilements that the non-returner still attached to. Only when ignorant, the mind with ignorance is destroyed, then the non-returner would achieve the final enlightenment. Whenever one sees the mind itself is suffering, if you already let go completely of the mind, that's the non-returner. The last level is so that the mind can see the mind itself is suffering. The mind has so much burden. The mind see, the mind hear. When the body come in contact with anything or taste anything, the mind come in contact with a thought. The mind moves. The mind moves inside your chest. The mind keep moving. And this is so suffering. They feel that movement of the mind is so suffering. The only way to get rid of this suffering is to get into a deep state of meditation. But if you keep seeing the movement of the mind, you see that it is so suffering. The mind moves, it's suffering. Keep practicing until your wisdom is strong enough. The mind that knows, that filled with so much bright, so much happiness. Luangpu Dun, the The master said most practitioners can reach this level and stay there. They cannot go past this point to see that this, the mind that knows, is suffering also. It's difficult. The mind is part of the aggregate. All the aggregates are suffering. So this mind is also suffering. If you see the original mind as part of suffering, then the mind can completely let go of itself. The mind no longer take a hold of the mind. The mind take a hold of itself all day long. You have to practice until you almost die before you can know this. You practice so hard, you see that the mind take a hold of itself, become suffering. You see that the mind itself, even the original mind, is the most suffering mind. In all of the aggregate, in all of the three realms of the universe, this, the mind that knows, is the most difficult to achieve, but the original mind itself is the most suffering. So keep practicing. You need to have a base for your practice. Just know when the mind get lost, and when you have this mind, you see that everything is not a self, everything arises and go. Keep practicing until one day the mind get the mind become attached to anything. The mind becomes suffering. The mind attached to itself. The original mind is also suffering, and then the mind can let go. The highest level of enlightened one can let go of this mind, and they can let go of all the suffering. If the mind still take possession of the original mind, that's not the end of the lesson. You still have to learn. You still have to practice. Moral code lesson, meditation lesson, and wisdom lesson. Some people say that the highest level of enlightened ones, they don't need moral code. That's wrong. The one who said this, they don't really know. Just keep practicing. Luang Por is teaching like this. Luang Por giving you the map of the path. If Luang Por doesn't teach like this, no one will teach like this anymore. They record this lesson, this video. One day you will have to use this teaching. The end of today's lesson. This morning, Luang Por thought, oh, what I will teach today, I teach every day. There's no more to teach. And then Luang Por can still teach. Luang Por is here to teach. May everybody be happy. If you are still bad person, train so that you become a good person. If you are already a good person, train so that you become a better person.